In the 1600s, we had Indians down here, and then there came the farmers.
Land in the Headlands was part of the original Western Reserve, and the Connecticut Land Company deeded the first parcel in 1803. But the story really begins in 1796, when a group of surveyors led by Moses Cleveland came to the Western Reserve. A year later, Charles Parker, a member of the surveying party, returned and built a cabin, establishing the Marsh Settlement. Over the years, many families made the trip west and settled in the area, carving out homes, building roads, and creating a community for future generations. Millie and her late husband, Harry Waterman, who grew up in the Headlands, built a house there after they were married. Harry was a descendant of some of Mentor's original settlers.
Harry's related to the early founders of the Headlands, the Brooks, the Jordans, the Laphams. It was those people who settled at a time that this was just country.
The founding families came from New England to harvest the plentiful supply of timber and to farm. This hardy pioneer stock put down the first stakes in the community. Churches and schools were built, and families took root.
In the early 1800s, many of his relatives gathered to have a meeting place. Eventually, that meeting house became the Little North Mentor Church, built in 1856 at this corner of Corduroy and Lake Shore, still stands, built by many of Harry's past relatives.
During the 1800s, Lake Erie became an important trade route, and shipping was the way goods were transported from place to place. On the bluffs overlooking Lake Erie, Headlands Road is dotted with the homes built by former lake captains, with names like Ingram, McAdams, Snell, and Brooks. Many people with those same last names can be found still living in the Headlands today. Over the years, when Lake Erie ships were no longer a mainstay for trade and transportation, some of the larger homes took on different functions. The Ernest Brooks home, called Breezy Hill, was used as an inn during the summer months from 1900 to 1920. Other homes that took in boarders were the Hugh Brooks home, Willow Bluff, Alfred Jane's Locust Cottage, and Ed Brooks' Brookdale. The beautiful view, country air, and expansive sand beaches continued to draw people to Lake Erie and to the Headlands. At the turn of the century, rows of summer cottages were built and rented to people who would travel from the city.
We're very fortunate here in Mentor to have the lake. We're very privileged to be able to walk that and to swim in it, and it's a very lovely place.
During the Depression, many of the summer residents converted their cottages into year-round homes. In those hard times, living in the country allowed homeowners to grow their own food and spared them the high costs of city living.
After the war, developers came into the area and built homes. And the 10 roads into the Headlands or cross-section down there. But when it began, and when the Watermans first came in from Painesville into the Headlands in the 1940s, they were one of very, very few houses down here.
Harry's parents, Harry and Sarah Waterman, built a small Cape Cod home on Glen Lodge Road. The Headlands blossomed in the 1950s with the arrival of the Morton Salt Company, the opening of Headlands Beach State Park, and the establishment of an auxiliary police department and the Headlands Community Center.
And when Harry and I were married in 1953, he built this house on Corduroy Road, and so I have been a part of the Headlands for 53 years. It's been a great community to live in, and the Headlands is a great place to raise children.
Throughout the decades, as the world changed, the Mentor Headlands has survived and adapted. This resilience is evident in the strong sense of community.
The Headlands people built their own fire station. They sought a library, and it went on and on from there. And they were a group of people who were workers and doers. And so they have a proud heritage.
Small family homes were built in the 60s and 70s to accommodate the growing population. Today, fresh new developments are encouraging more newcomers.
It's just been another growth spurt down here in the last 2-3 years, and it's wonderful to see.
New homes close to the lake are just part of the reason families are moving to the Headlands. Other reasons include the undeniable sense of neighborhood, including friendly people and good schools.
We have 2 schools in the Headlands. We have Mentor Headlands School on Forest Road, and we have Morton School on Jordan. And they're very good elementary schools, and we're very proud of them as part of the Mentor system.
A tradition that has continued since 1953 is the annual 4th of July parade.
Well, Mentor Headlands has always held the 4th of July parade. In years past, the parade and the celebration and the carnivals that were held were the community's day. That 4th of July was set aside by the people in the Headlands. The Headlands has always been tight-knit, and it's always been very independent. And if there's something need to be done, they rise up and do it. Very independent, but doers.
And that independence continues today.
And our children are 5th generation, and so it's a great history to have. We in the Headlands take great pride in our community, and it just is, it's better in Mentor. It certainly is. It certainly is.